Who were you gonna call out? What was the plan originally?
I think he was here. He came in my locker room.
Shakur Stevenson?
He wasn't in my locker room.
Jake Paul? But me and Gervonta were scheduled to fight for sure.
How real or what was to it with you and Tank actually being a thing? Was that something that was talked about?
Yeah, no, it was highly talked about and in negotiations and almost ready to make happen, but he has to do his rematch with Lamont and get that W, and then we'll be able to run it back. But me and Gervonta were scheduled to fight for sure.
Jake Paul caused a major stir by crashing the Davis vs. Roach 2 press conference just to shove Gervonta Davis. It all went down in a flash, but the impact was immediate. Everything came to a halt. Cameras swung around, security rushed in, and the crowd erupted into chaos. Paul had walked straight up and shoved Davis, right as Davis was about to take the mic. It wasn't part of the script, and it definitely wasn't staged, but it stole the spotlight. After the incident, Jake stayed mostly silent, but the moment spoke volumes.
Tank probably could get hurt. You know, this dude's 200 pounds at the end of the day, and it's not like he's a bum. No, he's not on Tank level, but a good big guy beats a great little guy. That's the phrase. This is a bad look. It's just, again, it's going to be hard for Tank to walk away from the big business that is this fight. It's a huge payday. I guess Tank fans definitely need to be worried. I know you guys think he's Superman. Jake Paul being 195 and then rehydrating. Tank fighting at 135.
He didn't throw punches or escalate, just made sure Davis felt the shove and then stood his ground, letting the spotlight land on him. Afterward, Jake made it clear there was no bad blood. He believed Tank wouldn't take it personally. For Jake, it was all about keeping the hype alive, reigniting the tension between them, and reminding everyone that their rivalry isn't over yet.
We know that Gervonta is going to fight Jake Paul in November. And then we'll see what happens if there's an AJ fight. Be interested to go from Gervonta Davis to Anthony Joshua, but I don't think the Chavez fight is terrible. I think it's a smart bit.
Over the last few months, Jake Paul has been actively trying to lock in a matchup with Gervonta Davis. Ever since his high-profile showdown with Mike Tyson, more and more fighters have started to take him seriously, not just for his in-ring abilities, but for the massive attention and money his events generate. Jake knows how to turn a fight into a spectacle. And that's why even elite boxers who once ignored him are now willing to entertain the idea of sharing the ring. At the moment, Jake's next confirmed bout is against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., scheduled for June 28, 2025, at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California.
Oh my gosh, what news to wake up to in the morning. Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez. Surto Ramirez versus Torticos live on the Zone pay-per-view. MVP Promotions, Golden Boy Promotions coming together. Let's go!
After his upcoming bout, Jake Paul's main target is getting Gervonta Davis to agree to a fight. But negotiations haven't gone smoothly. He was also reportedly close to securing a showdown with Canelo Alvarez, not just talk, but something that was nearly finalized. However, that plan fell apart when Canelo signed an exclusive 4-fight deal with His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh, putting any future clash with Jake on ice for now.
After Canelo didn't materialize, was the next one Tank?
Yeah, I mean, that was on the 1 yard line as well, but he has to rematch Lamont Roach. He wants to get that back. Then we'll be back in discussions with Mr. Gervonta. This is the nature of boxing. You have massive fights on the 1 yard line and things just fall through.
If you do fight, what weight would it be at?
195. It would be an exhibition. No restrictions, just the fact that we couldn't actually get it professionally sanctioned.
So Jake shifted his focus back to Gervonta Davis. The plan was to line up a fight for November, just an exhibition, not a sanctioned pro bout. But after Davis's underwhelming showing against Lamont Roach Jr., things got messy. Tank was pushed into accepting a rematch, and that showdown is now locked in for August 16th in Las Vegas.
So now he's trying to please the fans possibly and take this fight versus Lamont Roach in a rematch. You know, is it even worth it to please the fans who are going to love you 1 minute, hate you the next? They're going to love him this minute, they're going to hate him the next minute. Oh, I don't like it. He can fight Lamont Roach, and they're going to say, well, he's supposed to knock Lamont out if he does win, you know? Or if he loses to Lamont, they're going to say, oh, we knew Lamont was better. It's just always is a never-ending story in regards to boxing. You can't just please the people.
Jake paid close attention to the first Davis versus Roach matchup, which ended in a majority draw. But the result didn't sit right with a lot of fans, especially after Davis took a knee in the 9th round. Jake, for his part, wasn't shocked. In a chat with Ariel Helwani, he admitted he never rated Davis that highly. "Tank's always looked beatable to me," Jake said, adding that it would only take a confident, active fighter who isn't intimidated by Davis's power to expose him.
After Canelo, obviously, didn't materialize, was the next one Tank?
Yeah. I mean, that was on the 1 yard line as well, but he has to rematch, Lamont Roach. He wants to get that back. And then we'll be back in discussions with Mr. Gervonta. But man, this is the nature of boxing. You have massive fights on the 1 yard line and things just fall through.
As you're watching, he was a gigantic favorite.
Jake sees real flaws in Davis's technique flaws he believes Roach exploited, and ones he's confident he could capitalize on himself. If their matchup ever comes together, the plan is a 10-round exhibition with standard 3-minute rounds. Since regulators didn't greenlight it as a pro bout, this modified format was the compromise. Jake, though, isn't hung up on the label. For him, it's not about the status of the fight, it's about stepping in the ring with Davis and making a statement. But not everyone's on board. Some in the fight world have dismissed the whole thing. Shakur Stevenson, for example, has long been calling for a legitimate showdown with Davis, and isn't thrilled at the idea of Tank entertaining a bout with a YouTuber-turned-boxer, instead of taking on elite-level opponents.
Sure. We're in discussions with a lot of names: Gervonta Davis, Anthony Joshua, Badu Jack, Ryan Garcia, KSI, Tommy Fury. So there's a lot of people on the hit list, but Badu Jack excites me a lot. And I definitely want to become world champion. So going after Zerto or Badu sounds like a good game plan to me.
If you had your pick of the litter, in scale of 1, 2, and 3.
First is Gervonta. Second is Anthony Joshua.
Shakur. Stevenson didn't hold back, calling out Davis for potentially choosing to face Jake Paul over him. In an interview with Fight Hub TV, Stevenson said, "If Tank picks Jake Paul instead of me, that's disrespectful to the sport. I've told him I'm the best boxer out there, and he brushed it off. If he doubts who I am, then he needs to prove it." For Shakur, earning respect means beating top-tier fighters in real contests. The thought of Davis sharing the ring with a YouTube star just doesn't sit right with him. It feels like a sideshow, not true boxing. But Jake has a different take. He insists the fight was nearly set before Davis had to focus on his rematch with Roach. On a second appearance on Ariel Helwani's show, Jake opened up with more behind-the-scenes details.
Hold and say you got your eye on Tank. What do you think about the rumors of Tank and Jake fighting?
Man, Tank disrespectful to the sport if he choose that over fighting with me. I'm the best fighter in the sport. I've been telling him that. He called cap on it. So if he won't call cap and say I'm not who I say I am, come prove, bro.
Jake mentioned this during the 1YD interview, saying Davis needs to settle the score with Lamont Roach first. He's got that rematch lined up, and once that's done, we'll get back to talks with Gervonta, Jake said. If Davis can come out on top in August, Jake wants to pick up where they left off and make the fight happen. But even the possibility of this matchup has sparked plenty of online debate. A lot of fans aren't thrilled, pointing out the size difference between the two. Jake typically fights in the 195 to 200 pound range, while Davis is a lightweight around 135 pounds. Even if Davis moves up in weight, he'd still be facing a much bigger and taller opponent.
Taller. How about Jake? What do you think of Jake?
Clown.
Yeah.
He's a clown.
Would you look at it as a joke if someone, if your team was like, "Yo, we want you to fight Jake Paul"? Would you be like, "Come on, man"?
I laugh at him. Like, you want me to fight him?
You think it'll ever come to the point where you're going to mix into, I mean, you're obviously doing the real shit, but will it ever mix into the point where the money's big enough?
Yeah,
for
would you ever
to
do
take...
a fight like that?
I feel as though in my career I can't do.
Fans online didn't hold back with their opinions. One person said they had no interest in watching an exhibition match. Another criticized Jake for only taking on smaller or older fighters. Several pointed out that Davis typically weighs around 140 pounds, while Jake is aiming to fight near 195 pounds. One fan commented, "He's fighting guys who weigh 75 pounds less than him." Another reminded everyone that Jake actually lost to Tommy Fury, a boxer closer to his own size. On the other hand, some fans defended Davis with comments like, "Tank is 30-0, you're just talking nonsense," and others questioned when Davis ever lost to Roach at all.
Roach?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be down. Let's run it. Like,
I'd be super, super down.
I don't know if Gervonta needs Jake Paul. Let's be clear, right?
Is there a height limit in boxing?
Legendary boxer Roy Jones Jr. recently shared a candid and unexpectedly positive take on Jake Paul's potential to become a world champion. Speaking in an interview with Prime Casino, Roy made it clear that while he's not guaranteeing Jake will secure a title, he firmly believes Jake will earn the chance to compete for one. When that opportunity arrives, Paul possesses enough knockout power to end the fight with a single punch. Roy explained, "The whole point of these fights is to build a case for Jake Paul to challenge for a world title. That's his real goal. And the way he's going about it is smart. He's making that case. If he keeps pushing forward, eventually he'll get the shot." Roy also noted that Jake's odds of actually winning a championship will depend a lot on who he faces. But he was clear about Jake's punching strength, saying, "He has the power to win anything. He can knock out anyone."
When we wanted the Loma fight, when it was in its prime, him and Mayweather, their team just, they just danced around it. When we wanted the Devin fight for Undisputed, the belts don't matter. I could just give them to my kids because everybody's winning belts. Shakur, he's easy work, he's boring, but you don't want to unify against him. Keyshawn might have a chance. You feel me? It's just disgusting. We wanted the Bud fight too after he called him out, and we also would have took a Teofimo Lopez fight. But then his fans would say, "Oh, but they're too big. They're not in his weight class."
Roy Jones Jr.'s remarks came just before Jake Paul's upcoming fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., set for June 28, 2025, at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. This matchup is widely seen as Jake's toughest test yet. Although Chavez Jr. is past his peak, he brings a deep well of boxing knowledge and experience, and he's the son of one of the sport's all-time greats. For Jake, securing a victory here would not only bring him closer to serious discussions about a world title, but also help quiet the critics who still view him mainly as a YouTuber trying to box rather than a legitimate contender.
Fighter. If Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis fight, Jake wins.
You think so?
Jake weighs 80 more pounds more than him. He weighs way more than him.
What?
It doesn't matter.
That's crazy.
Gervonta's 125 pounds. Jake 200.
Danny DeVito fighting Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's not fair.
Hold on. How many people you think would agree with that?
No one.
So let's wait till they see it and let's watch Jake win.
And then I'm gonna bet on Gervonta and you bet on Jake.
That's great.
The fight won't happen though.
I bet you.
No,
I bet you Gervonta's an underdog.
Oh, it's really happening?
Why would Gervonta Davis be an underdog?
Because he's 120 pounds.
You don't know shit.
Jake Paul, who typically competes around the cruiserweight limit of 200 pounds, has been thoughtful about his choice of opponents. He's even agreed to drop down to 195 pounds for a potential upcoming fight, showing some willingness to adapt. However, if he faces someone like Gervonta "Tank" Davis, the size difference becomes a major factor. Davis naturally fights at super lightweight, around 140 pounds, and even if he adds weight, he would still be significantly smaller than Jake. This disparity would likely make their matchup more of a spectacle than a balanced contest.
Fairness. The Tank Davis that has now lived out his career to this point is not going to be a guy that likely will make the Hall of Fame. The Tank Davis that we have seen to this point that wants this fight with Jake Paul is not going to be the guy that's going to go put together this resume that's going to be remembered as an all-time great. A memorable fighter, sure. A guy that had great knockouts, yes. But not the type of guy that he had the potential of reaching. He might be up here, let's say, but his potential, what he could have accomplished if he were so focused, locked in, and worried about legacy, could have been all the way up here. He's going to be remembered because of his name.
Jake Paul hasn't held back when sharing his thoughts on Gervonta Davis. In a recent interview, he gave a straightforward critique of Davis's abilities. "I never really thought Tank was that good," Jake said. "It just needed the right opponent to expose his weaknesses, someone who kept the pressure and wasn't intimidated by his power. I always saw a lot of flaws in his style, so it wasn't shocking when someone finally challenged him well." Jake's remarks came in response to Davis's recent draw against Lamont Roach Jr., a fight many believe Davis should have lost. Davis even went down to a knee in the 9th round. While the match ended as a draw, it raised new questions about Davis's current form. For Jake, it only confirmed his long-held view that Davis might not be as unbeatable as many fans think.
When he fought Lamont, it was like he was there, but he wasn't like there for real. Like when you watch all his other fights, you can see like his eyes just look different. When he walked into the ring with Lamont, it was just like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, because you heard in the press conferences, he was just saying he was just real irritated. He didn't really seem like
He just felt like I think he just trained just to get by. I think he trained to just do 12 rounds. You know what I mean?
While no official announcement has been made about a Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight, insiders from both sides indicate that talks are underway. If everything falls into place, the bout could happen before the end of 2025. This potential matchup has stirred up plenty of discussion among boxing fans. Many argue it would be uneven, given Paul's significant size and weight advantage. Others criticize it as a cash grab that doesn't do justice to the sport. Regardless of opinions, there's no question that a Paul versus Davis fight would generate massive buzz, whether fans cheer or jeer.
I hate it.
I really mean that. I don't know how real these fights are.
Well, Jake Paul fights are real. I'm gonna speak on his behalf because I've, done business
Y'all
with
seen
him.
fake fights before?
Yeah.
I'm not saying they fake, but I think people might hold back a little bit.
What do you think? He's talking about like the Tyson fight.
Oh,
that's a real fight.
I don't know if Tyson held back.
That's a
but
real fight.
Put it like this. If Tank don't knock out Jake Paul within 30 to 45 seconds, it ain't real to me.
Whoa, why do you feel that way?
Nah, Jake is big, bro. Jake is big.
Tank is...
Jake Paul has made it clear that if his fight with Gervonta Davis happens, it would follow standard boxing rules. 10 rounds of 3 minutes each, with no special modifications. This point is especially significant because Paul has faced criticism before for participating in exhibitions or altered formats. He wants this fight to be as legitimate as possible, even if the Boxing Commission still classifies it as an exhibition due to regulatory limits. On the other side, Davis recently opened up during a Safe Place podcast, where he was asked about his dream opponent. Without hesitation, he named Floyd Mayweather. This response caught some people off guard. Mayweather was an early mentor and promoter for Davis, guiding him during the start of his career. However, their partnership eventually dissolved for reasons that remain somewhat unclear, and by 2022, Davis and Mayweather had officially parted ways.
Had ended.
What's your dream fight card?
Dream fight card?
Anybody.
So there's a couple fights on there. Me versus Floyd.
Okay. All right.
Even though Davis and Mayweather have gone their separate ways, it's clear that Davis still holds on to thoughts about what might have been, or maybe what could still happen someday. A fight against Mayweather would carry a lot of personal and emotional weight for Davis. Making it more than just a match, it would be deeply symbolic. While it would be a huge moment for boxing fans, the reality is quite different. Floyd Mayweather has been retired from professional competition for a long time, and now only participates in occasional exhibition bouts for entertainment. The likelihood of him stepping into a serious competitive fight with Davis is very slim. Still, Davis, naming Mayweather as his dream opponent highlights that there's something unresolved between them.
There's still something unresolved there.
All are fighting this November. Now, I know a lot of people are going, Tank's too small. I'm just telling you, Tank will knock that boy in the next year. So, I think it's trolling. Yeah, Jake's gotten better. He's gotten some skills. Especially when you're the shorter guy hitting as hard as Tank does. He can just wing. As soon as he sees an opening, he can just throw everything he got. Throwing up, his overhands, his hooks. He knocks Jake Paul out. I don't think it'll happen.
Davis hasn't shared much more about the idea, but it's obvious he still carries strong emotions connected to his former mentor. Whether those feelings come from respect, a desire for revenge, or a complicated mix of both, it's difficult to tell. If Davis truly wants that fight, it could be his way of proving he has outgrown the man who once managed his career. Meanwhile, on Jake Paul's side, talks about a possible title shot are gaining momentum. His upcoming fight against Chavez Jr. is seen as a key test. If Jake wins convincingly, he'll have defeated a former world champion with a rich history in the sport. Although Chavez Jr. has struggled in recent big fights and hasn't looked at his best lately, his name and experience still make this a meaningful step up for Paul.
Legitimate step forward for Paul.
Daddy
does all the talking. I didn't know it was bring your dad to work day. You're nothing without your dad. You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
You're like old man,
That's exactly what Roy Jones Jr. was hinting at in his recent interview. Jake Paul isn't just chasing random fights anymore. He's steadily working toward a bigger goal. There's a method behind the madness, and it's starting to become clear. While Roy doesn't guarantee Jake will succeed, he does recognize his focus, progress, and determination. Jake may not have the technical polish of elite pros yet, but his power, commitment, and promotional savvy are undeniable. The The boxing community remains divided. Some see him as a joke, others call him a genius. Some worry he's harmful to the sport, while others believe he's revitalizing it. What's certain is that Jake isn't going anywhere. He knows how to keep the conversation alive, continuously putting himself in the spotlight to prove himself. And if he beats Chavez Jr., that buzz will only grow louder.
That noise is only going to get louder.
I like it. He was a little listless. He can get listless. But he's big. He's schooled in boxing.
It just does nothing for me.
Yeah, it is a challenge though. It's a legit challenge, right? He's probably
he got his ass whooped. He got his ass whooped by Anderson Silva. Jake's already beat Anderson Silva, so it's like
if he shows up for the fight, if he's really training, he's fairly tough. How old is he now?
39.
Oh wow,
he's 40.
Oh wow.
For Davis, this is a tricky point in his career. The draw against Roach exposed some vulnerabilities. Although he remains officially undefeated, that performance didn't exactly boost his standing. A fight with Jake Paul could either help him restore his image or risk further harm, especially if he struggles in the ring. While Davis's focus is currently on Roach, the opportunity to face Paul is too significant to overlook. If the timing aligns and Davis comes out of his next fight looking strong, the matchup with Paul could move beyond speculation and become a serious reality.
Becomes a real possibility.
One of the biggest names, obviously, Gervonta Tank Davis. 13 sellouts in a row, 3 division champion. You and him were very close to fighting. Will we see that in November?
Yeah, no, we're working on it behind the scenes to make that happen, and obviously that's a fight where the fans are going to win, and it's going to be the biggest event of the year.
What weight would you fight him at?
We're working on it, but it'd be
Regardless of opinions, the potential bout between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis has become one of the most buzzed-about matchups of the year. If Paul gets past Chavez Jr. and Davis defeats Roach, all signs suggest this fight could happen before the year wraps up. So, what's your take on it?